Hello, welcome to this class. It's Talent and Gospel again. And in this class, I want to teach you about events in Solidity. Events are really important piece of construct in the Solidity programming language. What are events in the first place? Events are extra piece of data that can be logged off within a transaction. Okay, they are piece of data that enriches the content or the information each transactions that takes place in your smart contract. Each transaction, it enriches the information, it makes information available that can be tracked across the Ethereum Explorer. So you can actually search for information using these events. Without further ado, let me show you how to get it done. Okay, just it. So for example, let's create a smart contract called newsman, and okay, what we want to do with this newsman is we want this newsman to be able to publish news. Okay, so for example, we want to create a function called publish news. All right, and this function should receive a speech, okay, string of course, and it's going to be from the memory. Let's say call data for now, because this is going to be call data, and then we say this is the speech, and okay, and we can create a function here. No, we're not done. Let's say it's public of course and returns true on completion. So this is the function I want to create. So I want to create another function called string. Of course, is a string and it is public, and let's call this news. All right, and let it hold an array of news. All right, now let's create an event. This is how you create event in Solidity. Use the keyword event. You see it turns blue, and then you give it the title of the event. Let's say published. So this event is going to be fired once a particular news has been published. So you end with semicolon, and this is where you specify information about this event. So want event to have information such as let's call this ID. So this is an unsigned integer, and let's call it news ID, NID. Okay, and want to call this the publisher. So this is an address, and let's call it publisher. And one also target the news itself. Let's call this a string, and let's call this a speech. Okay, and let's have one extra information again. This is timestamp, to have information about the particular time such news was published. So now once a news is written, what you want to do is to put, say, news dot push, and what are you pushing? A string, which is what is speech. All right, after you do that, you want to emit the event. This is how you write it. You emit. Once you create an event, you utilize that event by what? Using the emit method, the emit provision. So what are you emitting? You're emitting this particular event called publish, and these are the data that you want to log along. So you want to first do let's say news dot length. Okay, plus what 1. All right, so what the ID will be, how many news do we have? If it is 0 plus 1, it will be 1. So that is the first ID of the news, and at each time we continue publishing to keep on incrementing. And then the address will be mhd.sender. Okay, this is the person that sent the news, the publisher. Please use commas, don't use semicolon here. So afterward, you want to specify the speech itself, and after the speech, the timestamp, which can be gotten as a global variable, blog.timestamp. Okay, and lastly, you want to finish up with a return statement of true. And with that, you can also get your function. Use this function to, let's say, function get published news. All right, and I'm going to show you how this thing works right now. So public, of course, public should view is a view, returns, what is returning? String, but not just string, an array of string, and stored in the memory. Okay, and let's call this, let's just say return what? News, and the semicolon. What else? So we're done with that. Now we'll click Ctrl Save to compile. It's saying here news ID. This shouldn't end with semicolon. It should end with what? With commas. Alright, so take note. Save, control. Okay, that compiled successfully. So now let's deploy this smart contract, and you can see. Okay, I want to do something right here. Let me do something right here. I'm going to comment out this. Okay, and I'm going to save this and deploy. Let me show you when you make a speech without a, let's make a speech, publish news, hello folks, and clear, of course. Let's make this bold. Let's see what is going on here. First of all, I published this news. You see, this record here is called a transaction record. When I click this drop down, I see the information written on this transaction. Like, this is the transaction hash. This transaction hash is like an ID that is used in specifying that particular transaction. A transaction basically in Solidity, in blockchain, basically is any interaction with the blockchain that causes a change in the state of a blockchain. For example, when I publish the news, okay, this news increased by 1. This news array increased by 1. So because of that increase, that is called a transaction. Okay, so a transaction is any database change that results in the alteration or the dynamics or the changes in the database. That is called a transaction. Okay, so for example, if I'm getting data if I'm pulling out data from the blockchain, it's not a transaction, it's just a read request. But if I'm doing a write request to the blockchain, that is considered a transaction. That is why this particular hash is generated, and it's generated for every kind of transaction that it takes place in the blockchain. So for example, this transaction contains the information of where this transaction is coming from, the request, the caller or the sender, which is the ID that sent this transaction, which you can see was the particular ID ending with EDDC4. You see that this one also ends with EDDC4. So that is what is going on, and you see the inputs, which the decoded input, it is string speech, which is hello folks, and then this is the return value, boolean true. It doesn't have any log. Okay, please take note of this. And this is not a monetary transaction, so it doesn't have any money being sent across. So I wanted you to take take note of that particular kind of transaction. Now I'm going to deploy this transaction with this event emitter, and let's see how it works under the hood. So now I comment it as compile and deploy. Now I have that. So let's in order not to cause confusion, I'm going to make this private. Okay, so save that and let's deploy now. So it's deployed. This is okay. So I'm going to make a speech, say hello my friend, hello my friend. Okay, and let's clean up this and publish, that we can see what is going on here. I'm going to click down. Okay, so this is the transaction. It tells you the status that has been mined, the transaction ID, all those information, and even tells you the particular method that was called in that smart contract, which is what newsman.publish news. Okay, and you can see now, but here is the most important place that I want to show you. You see this log here. This log is as a result of that event. Okay, the event logs of all this information, like it tells you extra information such as where this thing is coming from, the sender. Okay, and you see that it is quite different from this particular one. This end with EDDC4, and then you can see here that this particular one, this is coming from the smart contract address itself, because you can see that this one is a new address, and there is only two addresses that are working together here, which is what the sender and this particular address. So this logged out event is coming from the smart contract. It's not coming from the user that just made this, publish this particular made this particular transaction. So this is a topic, topic ID, and the event name is published. This is the argument that the event has. The event has an ID, which is okay, the ID which is 2, news ID which is 2. We have what is it called? News ID is 2. Okay, I think I've gotten that. I'm going to edit that. So the news ID which is 2, the publisher is that EDDC4, of course, and you see the speech, you see this timestamp. This information were not captured here, but each event that was fired, that particular information is also passed along. So I'm going to make some few changes. Okay, you can actually get it published by calling this function, and you can see a string of of speeches or speech news will be returned to you. So with that said, let's clear this console and let's make some more adjustment. I don't need this, except you're making an event first before you make the speech. But since the speech is pushed first before the event, so there's no need, adding that +1 there. So here I want to show you something called index. Okay, there's a key called indexed. All right, let's put that here. That's where indexed. Index, basically, what is index? Index is a key that you can add to an event in Solidity, and it is very instrumental when you want to do some filtering, searching and filtering through a list of events that has been emitted already from like the smart contract. So you don't have to do a lot of hard work trying to fish out the particular information. So you can use these indexed keys, such as you can now make a filtering activity, a search activity using this particular publisher's key address and this news ID, and it makes the work a lot easier. You're going to appreciate it when it's live, basically, because it's not very useful at this point, but it's a good practice to actually put indexes in some vital piece of data. Okay, the maximum index that you can put in one event is 3. So this index cannot go beyond 3. If it goes beyond 3, Solidity is going to complain. Like, let's say I put indexed as well here. And when I compile, see it's all good. And when I add another index again, okay, and compile, see it gives what? An error. And what is it saying? That more than 3 index argument for event. So it shouldn't be more than 3. So that is what I'm just trying to let you know. So let's compile that, and deploy, perform, hey man, and publish this news. And you can see under here the event that is logged out. You see the news ID is what? Hey man, is 1, and the key, the speech is hey. So all those information are captured. Let's send another message. Let's say, how are you? I know these are not speeches, but they're just there. So now I open up this transaction. You can see in this piece of data log that has been emitted, you can see how are you. You can see the news ID is not 2 and the timestamp. All those information are logged out together. You see that a transaction, often you see this particular check mark on it, because that shows that that particular one is a transaction. But anyone that is not a transaction is definitely called a call experience. For example, when I click on this, you see that this is a call to this particular function. So it's not going to like have all those data like those logged and all those kind of things, because we didn't put it in the first place, and they don't want to pay for some dumb gas fee interacting with that smart contract that way. So now you can see that we have 2 results returning for you, hey man, and how are you. So this is how you work with event in Solidity. I hope that cleared a lot of doubt and brought light to your understanding concerning events in Solidity. If that makes sense to you, please click the subscribe button and like, share, and I will see you in the next class. Bye.